Hey everybody, welcome to TnSportsChat presented by Lehigh Valley Health Network. I'm Patrick Matsinko along with Emmett McCall. When we left you last week, we were looking forward to Tamaqua's first round state playoff game against Pope John Paul. The Raiders pulled out a really impressive win, 47-21, and I mean their season's alive. Obviously this week they get a very tough undefeated Wyomissing team, but Tamaqua seems like it's playing its best football as of late these last couple of weeks.
Yeah, Raiders have won 6 in a row. Offense is in high gear. They scored 47 points this past week against Pope John Paul II. Nate Boyle running wild again. Got Braden Knobloch and Matt Kistler teaming up for some touchdown passes, a lot of yardage. Offense and defensive lines are playing well. Just Tamaqua is really playing good football right now.
Yeah, and in Thursday's edition of the Times News, we actually have two separate pieces by Brad Hurley, both really good. Kind of one that's more of a game preview, another that focuses on all the records that this team has set this season, specifically on offense with, like you mentioned, Knobloch, Boyle, Kistler, and those guys also were the focal point of our season preview this season, coming into the year.
Cover of our football tab.
Yeah, so they've delivered in every possible way.
You're looking at pretty hard to believe that one class has produced the top career passing yardage, rushing yardage, and receiving yardage leaders in school history. You just don't see that because usually one's taking away from the other.
Sure.
But they've just been so high powered on offense that all three players have been able to set career records.
Yeah, and going up against, as we mentioned, a very tough Wyomissing team.
12-0.
So both wins. The last couple of weeks, 2 weeks ago against Anvil Cleona, rolled up a really
over
remarkable
500 yards on the ground.
Yeah. So a little bit more subdued, I guess, this past week against Middletown, in the 140 range.
Right.
That was a tight game. So
it came down to a last possession. They came up with a defensive stop. So Middletown pushed them right to the wire. But then again, Middletown has played in 3 straight District 3 championship games. That's a program that's been really good the last few years. So that was a really good matchup. But Wyomissing doesn't throw the ball a lot. Going to rely on their power running game. So I think that might be the key for the Raiders to be able to slow down. I don't know if you're going to be able to stop the rushing game, but the way Tamaqua scores, you might not need to stop it. Just slow it down a little.
And Wyomissing is also a team that has some common opponents this year with Tamaqua, where weeks 2, 3, and 4, Wyomissing played Pottsville, North Schuylkill, Blue Mountain. The first of those against Pottsville was a double overtime victory for Wyomissing. The scores were a little bit more, I guess, kind of in Wyomissing's favor against North Schuylkill and Blue Mountain, 31-14 and 35-14, I believe, for those games. So you do have 3 common opponents here, but yeah, I do agree with what you mentioned about that Tamaqua offense and going up against the Wyomissing, run game, and if you can kind of not so much stop it, but just contain it, and then Tamaqua with what it's done these last couple of weeks, really been able to put some points on the board, and I don't know if Wyomissing maybe can keep pace with Tamaqua.
Yeah, and comparative scores, especially when Wyomissing played all 3 of those teams early in the season, that was 8-9 games ago.
Sure.
That can be really deceiving, but as Brad Hurley mentioned in today's preview story that's running in the Times News, that it is extremely unusual when you're playing into the second round of the state playoffs and that you have any common opponents because you're looking at teams from areas that are relatively far apart usually. So to have 3 common opponents is unusual, and it'll give both coaches a chance, I think, to kind of take a feed, get a little better feed of what the opposition's going to be like this weekend.
Yeah, and Tamaqua had that sort of, I guess, lull, you'd call it, maybe mid-season, where faced a very tough Pottsville team and then went to North Schuylkill and played North Schuylkill, and those were both of Tamaqua's losses coming in consecutive weeks. Tamaqua's obviously already atoned for one of those losses, defeating North Schuylkill for the District 11 Class 3A title. And yeah, Tamaqua has seemed to just kind of consistently get better throughout the season And again, you think about the first half of the season where a lot of those scores were lopsided. Right. A lot of the starters were out, by the second half or early in the second half. So when they got Pottsville and North Schuylkill, that was really the first time those kids had to play all 4 quarters and stay in there the entire game.
Yeah, and Coach Bonner mentioned something to that in that direction in the comment he had in the paper today, basically saying that in the last month, Tamaqua has been a really good fourth quarter team.
Yeah.
I mean, the Notre Dame game was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter, and Tamaqua ended up winning by 3 touchdowns. North Schuylkill was, 6-0?
Yeah, and they put together a long drive and were able to seal that game.
Yeah, and then last week against Pope John Paul, they had a great second half. So they've become a strong finishing team where in their 2 losses to Pottsville and North Schuylkill, the games were pretty close going into late parts of the game, fourth quarter, and the other teams pulled away from Tamaqua. So good point you brought up. When you're in all mercy rule games for the first 5 weeks of the season, your starters aren't seeing that time, and it might take a little while to get that, to build that up.
And I remember I covered the Pottsville game. That was Tamaqua's first loss of the season. That was a close game, obviously, at halftime, and Pottsville was just able to kind of wear them down in the second half. And I know Coach Bonner mentioned it afterward, not making any excuses, but just pointing to, the guys just haven't played in that type of game yet during the season. So you saw some hands on hips, guys that were maybe a little bit tired and worn down, and Pottsville was just kind of really able to control the game and do it up front. And it seems like over these last 3-4, plus weeks, that's really kind of flipped, and like you said, Tamaqua's now become a very strong second half team, and it'll be interesting to see how much of a factor that is against Wyomissing that does like to run the ball and try to control the game up front. So looking forward to that. That'll be Friday at North Schuylkill. So that's certainly something that we're looking forward to. And I don't know, do you have any thoughts in terms of, what'll be kind of, I guess, what'll be sort of maybe a deciding factor in that game for Tamaqua, I think, for them to come out of that with a win?
Yeah, Wyomissing is a big physical team. Tamaqua has been in the postseason. They've really run the ball hard. I think this might come down to Braden Knobloch and Matt Kistler, and I think Tamaqua has an edge in their passing attack, and if one of the 2 teams get bogged down in the running game, if one of the defenses can come up, Tamaqua, I think, has a better fallback if their running game isn't working. I could see some big Knobloch to Kistler or Gregorio passes, that could be the difference.
Yeah, and you talk about so often, I know Coach Bonner has mentioned it, we talked to so many coaches, and they always mention about being kind of multiple and versatile, having that type of attack where obviously they're not one-dimensional, and Tamaqua certainly has all the pieces to be able to spread it out and do it through the air, or like we said with Nate Boyle and the guys on the ground, Nate Kirby, they were able to do it on the ground as well. So so that'll be fun. So that'll be fun Friday night, but obviously now as we're kind of in the middle of seasons between fall and winter, we do have a variety of media days and things like that coming up as we're preparing for the winter sports season.
Yeah, again, press releases from several schools next week, starting as early as next week. We have media days at Tamaqua, at Panther Valley, following week at Northwestern, Northern Lehigh is one scheduled. So we're talking 2 weeks from tomorrow, season opens. So it's not very long till the winter sports starts.
No, but in this kind of downtime or in between seasons, we've also had a lot of, as we mentioned last week, a lot of college signings, several athletes committing to Division II, several Division I. We were at Lehigh a week ago where they had 3 athletes sign national letters of intent to Division I. Kaya Slaw will be continuing her track and field career at Division I Bucknell, and Carissa Huff will be continuing her career at Division I Hofstra. So very exciting to have 2 athletes, and they both play field hockey, both participate in track and field, so that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
But
and they're going to college on different sports.
Different ends.
Kaya's going for track, and Carissa's going for field hockey. Carissa was our 2018 Field Hockey Player of the Year. Both of them had great careers in both sports.
Carissa just kind of seemed to get even a little bit better this season. The Indians captured a district title last year, didn't quite get back there this season. But again, team MVP, offensive MVP, led them in virtually every offensive statistic and category. Just kind of continued to get better this season with Kaya. She was a state qualifier in track and field in 3 different events a year ago and doing it at the Class 3A level. So, and she seemed to just kind of get better and better last year toward the end of the season. She had a lot of her personal bests there. So definitely exciting. And I think when you talk to both coaches, they both seem to think that they're both sort of scratching the surface in terms of what they're capable of.
Yeah, when you're playing multiple sports in high school, you can't dedicate as much time to specialize in a sport.
Sure.
So I think that a lot of upside for both players going.
Yeah, and thinking about upside, going to Northern Lehigh with Reagan Pender, who will be running track and field and cross country at Division II Westchester University. The last couple of years, Reagan has been, on a huge upswing. It seems like she was 6th at states in cross country a year ago. She was 5th there this year. She was 4th in the 3,200 states in track and field last year. She's a 2-time league and district champion in cross country. So, she's really strong in both.
2018 Times News Cross Country Athlete of the Year.
Yeah, and she seems like she's just getting better. She's having huge performances these last couple of seasons. So that, I know Coach Dave Ortner at Northern Lehigh, their distance coach and cross country coach, mentioned it, that I think what's exciting for Westchester is they see that they're still getting someone with a little bit of untapped potential, that they think, she's still able to kind of grow into, these events and these sports, and she's going to be hopefully able to excel even more once she gets to Westchester.
Yeah, you love as a coach seeing the continuous improvement through the years, and you're hoping as a college coach to build on that at the next level.
Yeah, and that's not always easy with running or in any sport.
Right.
Where we've had, you think about just recently, we had Marion's Tina Caparel. She came in as a freshman and was kind of winning right away, and sometimes you have that. And with Reagan, she really just kind of, she came in, she didn't really have a great freshman year. She was maybe injured, and then kind of through her sophomore, junior, now senior year, she's just kind of continued to tick those boxes and continue to get better. So, and in addition to Reagan and Kaya and Carissa, we also had 2 baseball players, Palmerton's Ryan King and Lehighton's Logan Wentz, both sign and commit to Mansfield University for baseball.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Both of them signing to go to the same college program. Both of them had really strong high school careers, and I'm sure can help the Mansfield baseball program.
Absolutely, and maybe, who knows, maybe one influenced the other's decision.
Don't know if they knew each other.
Sure, which is certainly neat to see. But
we have a couple Northwestern players up at Mansfield currently playing baseball. So
and you have those Colonial League, and these kids play Legion Ball and all that other stuff. Carpenter Cup and different things where they're with each other outside and during the off season. So you don't know how much they talk about
nice
that kind of
local
stuff.
pipeline going up there for baseball.
Absolutely, and who knows? We might have more still to come. As different student athletes make their decisions, and as that happens, we'll certainly bring it to you. So,
and we also had one more player, Lexi Merkel.
Oh, and Lexi Merkel
signed last week too. She's going to East Stroudsburg University, I believe, for
softball.
Yeah. Outstanding year as a pitcher for Palmerton last year. Helped Palmerton reach levels that they've never been before in softball.
She was first team Colonial League selection, also helped the Bombers win their first league title. So really a huge accomplishment for Palmerton, and they're just looking to get back and repeat that success and now have even more going into districts.
Right. And I'm sure Alexi's going to be a central piece in the 2020 softball season for them.
Absolutely. So I think that's everything that we have for this week.
Yep, I think we covered everything, and we could say what we said last week. Hopefully Tamaqua wins, and we have something more football to talk about next week.
Definitely looking forward to Friday night's game and looking forward to covering it. So for Emmett, McCall, I'm Patrick Matsinko. Thanks again for tuning in to TN Sports Chat, presented by Lehigh Valley Health Network.